All right, what's good, everybody? Great to see you. It is Tuesday, which means it's time for yet another episode of A Fresh Perspective with your boy Jeff Charles, where we prefer truth over narrative and principles over politics. Tonight, I have a very special guest, the one and only Larry Sharpe. But before I bring him on, just want to remind you that LibertyNation.com is a proud sponsor of A Fresh Perspective with Jeff Charles. Check out LibertyNation.com for all of your conservatarian news, original articles and analysis, videos, podcasts, Liberty Nation Radio, and their signature TV program, The Conservative Five, all on LibertyNation.com. Conservative news, where truth matters. So, without further ado, he hails from New York. He is a former gubernatorial candidate. He is the kingmaker in the Libertarian Party. I give you the one and only Larry Sharpe. What's going on, brother? You ready?
I better do something good. I'm a kingmaker. I better do something good. I like that. So how are you, sir? Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. Good to see you. We had some wonderful conversations at the Solutionary Summit a couple weeks ago. So it was nice to meet you face to face.
I'm a big fan of Solutionary Summit, big fan of Maj Toure. Whenever he says come by, I do.
Good.
Excuse me. I think my allergies are bugging me, or maybe I'm sick or something. So if I cough here or there, I apologize. I don't have the COVID. I'm already vaccinated, so it's fine. I don't have that. We're good. Good. I don't have the Rona.
Good. No Rona for you. Good. Yeah. So even before we get into anything, why don't you give us your thoughts on the Solutionary Summit? What did you think?
Very happy with it. The idea that, I never forget when I was running for office in 2018. I went to a Manhattan Institute event, how to deal with how to solve problems in the Black community, right? It was kind of conservative / libertarian, that kind of environment. The Manhattan Institute is generally conservative libertarian, generally speaking. And they had a bunch of people there, a bunch of people of color there, talking about how to solve the problems. And it wasn't one problem being solved. It was just, let me tell you how bad everything is. That's all it was. It was, and then you just look at the stats and, out of wedlock and what it was before the war on poverty and where it was before the war and blah, 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 blah. That's all it was. It's like, great. So should we change some things? And there was absolutely no solution. Correct. There was, let's just blame the other, right? It actually, what was disappointing is they didn't want me there. They didn't let me speak. Of course not, because I might say, you're all full of crap. All you guys do is talk about how bad things are, and you have no solutions whatsoever, which is the norm. And that's the sad part, right? What I think you find often, and people always ask this, why do so many people of color, particularly those who are conservative, and if you're watching, and either you're Black or you have Black people in your family, here's what I know you know Black people who are conservative and vote Democrat. That that, right? You're shaking your head. I do too, right? So that's how that works. So why? Here's the reason why, so that you can understand this clearly. When you're not in a good spot, you want an answer. You want someone to care, and you want someone to give you an answer. That's what you want. That's what human beings want. Sadly, most conservatives, not all, but most conservatives go, well, it's because of the government. It's bad. And, bootstraps and do stuff good. And why do you go to jail? Right? That's the answer you get. So there's really no answer. So you get no answer from most people on the right. So you go to the left. They go, I'll save you. And I'll throw lots of government programs at you because it's about love and equality and equity. I care about you. And even though in your heart you go, man, that's some garbage right there. Like, it's some garbage, right? But it's the only answer that you're given. So you lean that way versus no answer, which is why when you find people who have an actual answer, you watch Black conservatives move towards that person when they have an actual answer. That's why I like Solutionary Summit so much. It was about actual answers.
Yeah, me too, actually. And we need more of that, because I've noticed that too. I mean, even when I've gone to CPAC, and I'm not knocking CPAC. I mean, CPAC does good things as well. But I mean, I saw a lot of that just in general. People on the right are very, very good at complaining, and we are very, very good at identifying what's wrong with the government and what's wrong with, what the left comes up with. I mean, I even, a while ago, I was on the Timmy Mack show on Fox Soul, and we were debating the American Families Plan. And me and the other conservative that were on there, we were talking about the problems with it and you know, how things might be better. And one of our leftist opponents said, well, yeah, but Republicans aren't bringing anything to the table. I couldn't argue with that. I said, no, I agree with you. Like, I don't like it, but you are right. There are very few of us who actually want to put forth competing ideas. So it is kind of tragic. And I'm glad that Maj Touré started this thing, because it's one of the,
I'll give you a reason why. And the reason is most people on the right have fallen prey to the rhetoric on the left. Let me be very clear what I mean by this. What you will hear on the left is it's systemic. Got it? Which people on the right could actually probably hear. But then they go, it's systemic. Stop being so white. Those two things don't make sense. Either it's you're the bad white guy, or it's systemic. It can't be both. But what you see coming out of and this is the loud left, the average Democrat doesn't think this way, right? I know many Democrats.
Yep.
I live in New York City. I know many Democrats. The average Democrat does not think that way, but the loud left does think that way. So the system's bad and you're racist. Well, you can't be both. Either the system is bad, making people producing bad outcomes, which I believe that to be true, or the people are racist, in which case the system doesn't matter because the people are racist. I don't believe the people are racist, right? I believe the system is bad, which produces bad outcomes.
Yep.
So when you say the system is bad, the average person on the right will go, okay, so, and then the left yells, you're racist. Well, they shut off. And here's the worst part about it. If someone gets upset when you call them racist, they're probably not racist, right?
Yep.
The person who is okay with being called racist is the racist. They're like, yeah, right? They put the hood right on. They wear the armband, right? They're good. They're like, that's who I am. I'm good, right? That's who they are.
I will say this though. I mean, the racists on the left, they do hide it better. You know, like Malcolm X said, on the right, they're more open with it. Even when they try to hide it, they're not very good at it. But people on the left are very good at hiding it. So because
prior to Biden winning, the left's rhetoric was very good. It was very warm and engaging and together. It was very good rhetoric, right? It was all about, you know, we're going to be equal and we're going to give you free stuff and life is going to be awesome. And there's going to be rainbows and there's going to be unicorns with leprechauns on them. It's going to be amazing. Butterflies are going to land on your shoulder. It's going to be awesome. And it was beautiful. And people were like, wow, that sounds great. Yeah, I want butterflies to land on my shoulder. So they loved the idea, right? They wanted it. But then once the Democrats have won, that's out the window. That rhetoric's out the window.
Yeah,
out the window.
It is. And the thing is, they can do that because they know that we're not going to compete. So, I mean,
correct.
And I do want to talk more about that. But one thing I want to kind of talk to you about is, you know, the world of libertarianism right now. Like, I usually kind of keep up. I listen to people like you sometimes. I listen to Dave Smith sometimes. Over the past couple months, I've been focused on other things, so I haven't. But I've been kind of trying to poke my head in. It sounds like, I mean, the Republican Party has its own civil war now. The establishment of America first. Democrats have their own. You got the progressives and the establishment moderates. Yep. You guys are having your own civil war too, from what I've noticed. Can you tell us more about what's going on? Like, I know with the whole Mises Caucus and everybody else, can you give us kind of a snapshot of what's going on in the world of libertarianism?
Well, let me give you a little bit of background that will hopefully show why we're a little bit different. Not a lot different. We're a party like any other party, but there's a little bit difference. We were created in the 70s as an activist party. Like, that's what we were created for. That was our origin. We actually weren't created to actually win elections. We were created to push the narrative, to change the country, to push the Republicans and Democrats to a better spot. That's our creation. Some people will be upset about me saying that, but I think that's actually what happened. There are many libertarians in the party who believe we should still be that. Those are, I guess, more of the purists, if that makes any sense, or more of the radicals, or more of the activist types. Many of them believe we should still be that. And then there's the opposite. Those people who are like, no, we should be mainstream. We should only be about being mainstream, blah, blah. And that's really kind of our fight right now, if that makes any sense, right?
Okay.
So you have people who are like, no, we need to be, you know, competing with the Democrats and Republicans on their field. And another side goes, no, yell and scream. We're activists. That's the issue. Move the needle. Who cares? Those are the two pieces that are kind of fighting. Now, that's very generic. A lot of people fit somewhere in the middle, but almost everyone leans one way or the other more, right?
Okay.
So my answer to this, which most people sadly are not listening to, is simply say, look, the movement and the party are two separate things. The movement is a bigger movement with small L libertarians, people who aren't part of the party, single issue people who are only about guns as an example, or only about lockdowns or whatever. They can all be part of our movement. The party, which is an arm of the movement, the party cannot survive without the movement because the party usually gets funded and also by both bodies and dollars from the movement, right? So the party is a separate arm of the movement, and that goal is just to get candidates elected. Now, that might sound like it makes sense, but there's a lot of libertarians who think I'm wrong. They don't like it. They think, no, we're all activists. That's how it has to be. So then some people think, well, Larry, are you anti-activist? No, I need my activists. They're insanely important. In my perfect world, right, I have my activists who are the people who get the populace to care about an issue. Like most people don't care about an issue. Like, yes. So now care about it. They might yell taxation is theft. They might yell things like that. I don't care what they yell, right? Whatever's appropriate. Get out there. Get people to care about an issue. That's your job, activists. Please do that. Awesome. Now, when it comes to a candidate has to see what does my constituency, whether I'm running local or whatever, wherever I'm running, what issues do they care about? If my activists have done a good job, it's libertarian issues. And then how do I solve them? Right? Which is why you see me all the time talking about policy. So many people said, Larry, I got interested in you because you actually answered my question. Right? And most people don't. If you go to an average Republican or Democrat event, whatever the event is, and you say, hey, how are you going to solve education? We're going to solve it by caring about teachers and caring about kids. Great. How? By caring and by loving. Great. How? By supporting and caring. Yes. That the support. Now, if you're a Republican, you will say invest. If you are a Democrat, you will say fund, but they both mean more taxes.
Right.
You just change the words. So both parties just say, I'll throw more money at it. We've been doing that for how many years now? Decades. And it hasn't worked. So, but when you ask me, I would give you an actual plan to change education. People go, oh my God, that's an actual plan. Yeah. And you can go on my website, by the way, LarrySharpe.com if everybody cares. And you can click on policy.
In the show notes.
My policy from 2018 is still there. If anybody wants to see it, if you care, please go. It's still there. Click LarrySharpe.com policy, and my policy is still there. I still talk about my policies, right? And that's what drew people to me is I had an actual idea. So now you find someone who's upset and worried, and instead of just going, well, the right yells at me, so I'll go left, or the left yells at me, so I'll go right. Larry's got an idea. Let me talk to him. I think that's what happens.
Okay. So now let me ask you this, because here's the issue I'm seeing. And now that you kind of explained that, I understand better what I've been seeing. But I mean, if you go full activist, that's all great, but you're not really going to move the needle if you don't have the political power to actually put policy into place. But if you're too far on the other side where you want to be mainstream, then you're not really going to be distinguishable from the Republican and Democratic parties. I mean, with the Republican Party, they have the party, that they have the conservative movement. The Democrats have the Democrat Party, and then they have the liberal or leftist or progressive movement or what have you, or these days Democratic Socialists. So it makes sense that you do need the two. What I'm saying is that, like you mentioned, policy, and I don't hear a lot of policy coming from the libertarians I listen to. I love what they say. I think they're right on a lot of things. I love it, but actually, you were the only one, because I heard I was introduced to you when you were on Joe Rogan. You were talking about education policy and other policy. And to be fair, I haven't done a full deep dive on every libertarian candidate, but in general, even among libertarian influencers, I don't see them talk about, okay, what are some libertarian policies that would address this situation? Now, to be fair, a lot of them are ANCAP, so they don't believe that the government should be doing anything. So I get that. But at the same time, but even if you get political power, if you don't actually say, okay, this is actually what we're going to do.
If you're an ANCAP activist, I don't mind. Yell and scream government bad all day long. No problem with that. That's what you do. I'm happy. And there are some people who will hear that message, right? People hear a message at a different level, which is why you don't see me get involved in messaging too much. Because I think every type of message, the hardcore yelling taxation is theft or end the Fed, that stuff works for some people. And so does we're socially conservative and socially liberal and physically conservative. Right. That's very milquetoast, but that worked for some people too. So I like all of the messaging. Don't stop any of it. Let it all go out, because there's a person who's going to be a certain part in their life where they're going to be like, huh. For me, Gary Johnson brought me aboard. Of all the people, Gary Johnson did, right? And people say, well, why Gary Johnson? When I first heard him, I thought he was a radical. He's not a radical, right? I'm far more radical than he is now. But where I was at that time, 9 years ago, that's where my head was and the person that I could hear. If that makes any sense.
Right.
Which is why I'm open for any message. So that's piece one. But piece two, the ANCAP, who is a candidate, should at least have a plan. And the one I bring up often, which is radical, but it was a plan at least. In 2020, Adam Kokesh was running for president. Right. And he actually had a plan to end the federal government. He said, we'll take it through bankruptcy and receivership, and over the course of time, a peaceful transition into 50 local governments. Now, that's radical. There's no doubt that's radical. But that's a plan. Does that make sense? That's actually a plan. And at least someone can go, wait a minute, how can that work? And people did it. But wait a minute, can you really do that? Like, that started conversation.
Sure.
So now if he's just an ANCAP yelling and screaming, he doesn't need a plan. Just yell. It's fine.
Yep.
But when you're a candidate, you have to have a plan so people can discuss your plans and issues. But more importantly, as a third party, which is what we are, if we don't have a plan, we fall into culture war left and right, and we lose.
Right.
Culture war is dominating everything. Culture war is always good versus evil, left versus right. And if we just talk about rhetoric, we fall into one or the other, make people angry, and we lose the culture war. But if we have actual policies, they have to fight on policies. And the vast majority of Democrats, Republicans don't have any policies either.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, at the very least, not policies that people really want. I mean, because I do see that Democrats put forth a lot of policies. They're doing it now, but Republicans don't. Like we just got done talking, and they just say that policy is bad. But everything that the Democrats want, people aren't really on board with it, at least not the way they want us to believe. And so here's another question I had, though. I mean, I know that there's also this debate in the libertarian world. And I've heard people like Dave Smith, and he was debating with, I can't remember the guy's name, and I feel bad about it. First name was Jason. I think he was a libertarian candidate, maybe in Maine or something like that. Their debate was, should libertarians focus more on pouring into the Libertarian Party and trying to get political power that way, or should they work on changing the Republican Party? And to me, I thought they both made really good points, especially because I do think that libertarians have been instrumental in making the Republican Party a little bit more libertarian. I mean, Republicans are not as crazy about weed as they used to be. They're not as crazy about, the government being involved in marriage and other issues. So I can see both sides. I mean, where would you say you fall on that continuum?
Yeah, I'll say the same thing. Both.
It was Eric Brakey. Somebody pointed out in the chat. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No worries. I say both. Again, why not do both? In certain states, turning the Republican Party is probably a good idea. In other states, it's not.
Okay.
Right? And here's the best part. If you just have a strong Libertarian Party, it will wind up dominating. Now, I'll give you actual example right now. In Wyoming, we have a guy named Marshall Burt, who is, right now, Libertarians have 2 state-level candidates who are Libertarians. One, I think, is in Maine, and one is in Wyoming. So we do have a couple of people who are getting elected who are actually running as Libertarians, who are winning and making change. More than once, people have been pushing Marshall because he becomes the vote that turns on things. The Libertarian Party, think about it. What if you had, say, I don't know, 2 Libertarians in the Senate? Just 2. Mm-hmm. We would dominate the Senate. So how do we dominate the Senate? By pushing the Democrats and Republicans to where they're supposed to be. Democrats are supposed to be about civil liberties. They're not. Right? But they're supposed to be.
They're supposed to be anti-war too.
Correct. And they're not, right? Republicans are supposed to be pro-small business and lower taxes, right? Smaller government. They're not, but they're supposed to be. When you have the Libertarian Party there, it will make you have better Democrats and better Republicans. So I think you can do both, but you do both by focusing what I talked about. The activist focus on people caring about the issue, right? And then the candidates come up with actual plans, forcing Democrats, Republicans to at least attack the plan and come up with counter plans.
Right.
So you will do both of them if you follow that rule.
So it seems to me, I mean, I think you've already got the activists down. I mean, I think that's already there. I think there needs to be more people focusing on the policy. So hopefully that happens. Do you see any signs of more of a policy focused? I don't know.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
and I do, and believe it or not, I'm the spearhead. And I don't care if that sounds, like I'm the cool guy, but policy's not cool, so I guess I'm the geek guy.
Right.
But yes, I think you're seeing it, right? One of the people who gave me, I raised a lot of money when I ran for governor, and one of the people who gave me a big chunk of cash said, Larry, what can you do? Why should I give you all this money? And I said, because I'll build a policy library. And he was like, ooh, we don't have one of those. I know.
Yeah.
I know. I'll build it. And so we did, right? So LarrySharpe.com is a policy library, and many libertarians go there and steal policies. And I encourage them to steal. If you remember my Joe Rogan interview, at the end of the interview, he was like, wow, Larry, these policies are great. How'd you come up with these? I said, me and my team, not just me, all together we come up with these policies because you better lock these things down. I said, why? He said, people will take them. I said, good, take them. Take them all. Right? Fix the state, fix the country, and then I don't have to run anymore. I can stay home with my family. Good, let's do that. I'm in.
So here's my question then. How does the whole conflict between the Mises caucus and the people that hate him fit into this whole thing?
Yeah, I think in the long run it'll shake itself out. I tend to not take a stance on these things. And people will get mad at me. Well, there are many libertarians who are angry at me. And most of the time they're angry at me because I won't hate the other, right? They want me to hate the other, right? So you got to hate all the Mises people, or you got to hate all the Prags. I hate neither. I want them all to help me. They're all my brothers and sisters, and I need them. We are too small of a movement to be fighting. It makes no sense to me, right? We're too small of a movement.
That's a good point.
We need to be with each other. So I hate none of them. And they tend to get mad at me. And then they want something like, Larry, can you raise money? And I go, yeah. And then they love me again. So it's fine. So I don't mind. I mean, yeah. I raise a lot of money.
Yeah, they love the money more than they hate the other side.
I mean, I think I've probably raised for myself over $500,000, and for others probably also over $500,000 already. Which, when it comes to Democrats, Republicans, that's rookie numbers, right? But when it comes to libertarians, that's big numbers, right? Huge. That's big numbers for us, right? It's relative. We're a much smaller pond, so for us, that's big numbers. So, I'm not concerned. I think, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I think in a year or two, it'll shake itself out one way or the other, right? Yeah. And one side will be proven wrong or right, or both sides will be proven right, or both sides wrong. I don't care, whatever. Here's the reality. Whether they fight at the top of my party or not doesn't change whether or not I run for governor or not. Doesn't change my tax burden. Doesn't change my school system. So their battles at the top don't mean anything to me. I don't care. Right? I mean, I don't like the fact that our chair stepped down. That sucks. But so what? I don't mean to be mean, but so what? Who's affected by it besides him and the people around him?
Yeah, life goes on.
And I hope that he's well. I have no ill will for him. I hope he's doing well. I didn't want him to step down, but okay. Did we all of a sudden win an election? Did we all of a sudden lose an election? Did some policy change? No, I don't care. And I know that sounds flippant, but I don't care. It's just drama I don't need. So I don't care. I used to be on the LNC about 4 years ago. And I dropped out because I realized it didn't make any sense for me. So I just left. I was like, I'm done. So anyway, that's my issue with the top of the party. When I run for office, I rarely ask the party for much help. I usually do it myself, and then I help the party when I can. And whenever I can, I get whatever I can from them. But look, here's the panacea. Here's the cure-all. Better candidates. Better candidates with better policy, right? Every time the Libertarian Party has had a big explosion, it's because someone did something awesome for us. Whether that was Ron Paul, whether that was Gary Johnson, whoever. It was someone who did something big, whether it was a Harry Brown, right? It was someone that people said, oh my God, that guy makes sense. And they began to rush in. So I think that's the issue.
Yeah, I think Ron Paul embodied both activism and policy very well.
Yes.
Now, speaking, of political power, and what are you thinking of for the midterms? I mean, do you see like a Ron Paul type figure? Are there some races that you're looking at where a libertarian might be able to make some inroads? Or
yes, without question, the one I see is Ricky Harrington in Arkansas.
Okay,
Ricky Harrington is running for governor in Arkansas. He ran unopposed, against one other guy against was it Tom Cotton, I think, for Senate 2 years ago. and he got a big chunk of the vote. I think like 30% or something like that. So he has good name recognition. He can make some real impact in Arkansas. So if anybody cares about libertarians making, something happen, Ricky Harrington in Arkansas is your guy. He is, and I'll tell you some great things about him. Black, Asian wife from China, a former prison pastor, a former missionary in China, which is where he met his wife, where he had to flee because he was being chased by the Chinese Communist Party, and he escaped, and his wife is now active duty Navy. Okay. So checking every box, and a great libertarian.
Awesome. And he's running for governor?
Yeah, governor of Arkansas. Okay.
Yeah, I just looked him up. I'm gonna check him out.
Absolutely.
Now, there was somebody who had a question from the chat. Where'd it go?
Let's grab the chat. I'm in.
Yeah. They asked, okay, yeah. Are libertarians open borders? I kind of know the answer to this question, but I'd rather let you answer it.
No, I get this all the time. The party itself is open borders. The individual candidates are often not. So that depends upon the candidate, right? The party is absolutely open borders. If you look at our bylaws and our platform, we are absolutely open borders party. The party is. Many candidates still aren't. I am not open borders. So while my party is, that's true, I am not, and I would gamble to guess that most candidates running are not open borders because they believe that you can't have open borders with a welfare state. So you have to knock down both at the same time, right? If you can knock down the welfare state, then you'd have a better chance of having open borders, but you can't have both. Most libertarians, I believe, who are running for office, that's why I separate them. I think most of them think that way. You can't have both. But that's not true. Some libertarians, I'm sorry, but that's true for all. Some libertarians are open borders. I have an actual policy for a border. Would you like to hear it?
Yes, I would.
Yes, we should put 2 Ellis Islands on the border right now. 2 of them. Maybe one in Texas, maybe one in California or Arizona, wherever's the right point. 2. Both of them run by 2 separate private companies, not by the government, 2 separate private companies. If you want to come to America, you go to one of those Ellis Islands. Right. And in that Ellis Island, they will hold you for whatever's appropriate, whatever the number, 14 days, 30 days, whatever. Do your background check, make sure you don't have anything wrong. And then all states who want to be in this program can opt in or opt out. And we can send the people to those states if we want to go, and they get a 2-year work visa. So they're cleared, right, through whatever the time is, and they go to the states and opt in. You want to, it is my opinion, it'd be silly to opt out. But if you want to opt out, it's your state, do what you want. But I think you should opt in. Excuse me, because you're getting vetted workers. So why would you opt out? Right now, many industries, farming industry, hospitality industry, are spending billions of dollars on the black market to get workers. Right. Well, then instead, give it to them. There's a model that exists already. It's called recruiters. Recruiters get paid when they place somebody. This becomes a massive recruiting station, right? So you get paid. They get paid by the organizations, or if the state wants to control the labor force, they could. I think it's a terrible idea, but some states might want to control the labor force. Then the state would pay if the state want to do that, and the state would then get money from individual people if they wanted to. But that's up to the state. Leave it alone. I'm talking at the federal level, right?
Right.
So now that's an issue right there. Now that's at the end of it. They get a 2-year work visa, an orange card. During that time, they may not collect any form of public assistance, and they must check in every 2 years. If they don't check in every 2 years, or they are on public assistance, they get deported, right? That's the issue. We know where they are. There we go, right? So we can go do that, right? That's the issue, right? So we deal with that issue, but I'm still not done. On top of that now, since I have these 2 Ellis Islands, the only people who won't go to the Ellis Islands are the actual bad guys, right? So now our current people, correct. So the current people who are on the border now aren't grabbing a bunch of families and people who aren't bad. They're now focused on the bad guys. So they go up and down the border and get the bad guys. There will still be bad guys, right? The bad guys don't go away because I make this up. There's still gonna be bad guys. But now they're focused only on the bad guys. No extra money, no extra cash, and we have better secured border with now vetted immigration to states that want it. Now, I'll go further on this idea. Say every, 10 years, whatever the number is, we give the person an opportunity to get a green card. So if you don't get in trouble for, say, 10 years, you don't get in public assistance for, say, 10 years, you can get a green card maybe. Excuse me. And this wouldn't go through the government. This would go through that private organization, which takes the burden off of the government. And we can create whatever rules we want. Do they have to speak English? Do they take a test? Whatever. Create the rules. maybe 10 more years, and they can become a citizen or whatever is the rules we want to create. But the private company can do that, and the people would pay the private company themselves. So the private company provides a service. You want a green card? Absolutely. $500 or whatever the price is. You want to become a citizen? Awesome. $2,000 or whatever the service is. So you can go that route. Now, here's the best part. If that becomes more efficient, people who are waiting in the government system will just leave that system and go to those Ellis Islands.
Right, right.
So it takes a burden off the current horrible system. They then go to Ellis Islands.
Yeah,
not just
our system is horrible. Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, there's a friend of mine who recently got married, I think a year or two ago, and to a woman from the Dominican Republic. And she has kids, and her kids are stuck in the Dominican Republic. They're not able to come over. They haven't lived with their kids for, I want to say it's like 2 years now. And now they're being told by the government, it's not going to be until another 1 or 2 more years before we're able to let you bring your kids over here. So yes. Something like, I mean, pretty much anything is going to be better than what we have right now, but I could see how something like that would work. Now,
and I'm still not done. The reason why you have 2 of them is because they will compete against each other. If one is bad, people won't go to it. They won't make money. So it allows market forces to make it good. If they're being cruel or mean, no one will go there. They'll rush to the other one.
Right.
If they start making money, they'll build more of them.
Right.
But I'm still not even done. There are give or take 11 million or so, depending on how you count, undocumented workers right now in America. We physically can't get them. We don't have the money or the time or the anything. We can't do it. Physically impossible. They can also go to the Ellis Islands. You don't have to cross the border. Say you're an undocumented worker sitting in St. Louis, and you go, you know what? I'm tired of being, blackmailed by Bad Pablo. I'm tired of being scared. I'm going to the Ellis Islands. And you go and you get your papers. You come back. Now you can't be blackmailed anymore. You call cops. This actually makes law enforcement's job easier, because right now the bad guys and there are bad guys in our country.
Oh yeah.
We can't get them because they live in enclaves, and the people around them don't want to give up Bad Pablo, because then they go to jail. So now the person can call the cops, go, Bad Pablo, where is he? Right there. Go get him. There he is. And as more people do that, others will begin to do that. They will, by default, on their own, as early adopters begin to do that, we will start to document all of our workers and get a grasp on immigration. And say a state's getting too many people, they can opt out. The state can go, whoa, 28 immigrants, we can't handle anymore. Opt out of the system. Opt out when you want to opt out.
Yeah, but here's what here's what I'm hearing conservatives what they're going to say. Well, if a state doesn't want immigrants, then they opt out. Then guess who's going to get them? New York, California, the sanctuary states. That will give them a competitive. That will give them an electoral advantage when it comes to the when it comes to the census and redrawing districts. When it comes to the presidential elections, all that stuff. That's one of our biggest pet peeves. Democrats want to have as much open borders as possible, because it'll give them an electoral advantage. So how would your solution deal with that?
Well, 2 issues. One, have a better state that's more positive towards immigrants, and you'll find they'll vote conservative. That's a fact. You see it happening. You see it in Texas. So stop being mad that Democrats are nicer and have better rhetoric. Stop being anti-immigrant. How about that? Stop making black people feel like you hate them. How about that?
That's a lot to ask for.
Yes. How about that? Right? So don't get mad. Right? Don't get mad. That's absolutely. Instead, get better. Right? And I got to tell you, I'm going to give. People gave Trump too much credit for this, but I'm going to give him some credit for this. Trump made race in general not a thing. And the left called him racist. But if you see what he actually did, he was like, you're black. You want to make money? Come on, make some money. So a lot of people were like, oh, huh. And then the left, the loud left, became so socially liberal that so many conservative blacks just couldn't take it anymore. And then they saw that, well, Trump's kind of just whatevs. Like, he hangs out with Kanye. I guess that's all right. I'm not joking. I'm telling the truth.
Yep.
They're like, I guess he's okay. And so Trump didn't get a bunch of black voters to all of a sudden become conservative. He got a bunch of black conservatives to stop voting Democrat.
Right.
That's what actually happened. So my answer to you conservatives is stop sounding like you hate immigrants. Stop sounding like you hate black people, and you'll have more people vote for you. Change your rhetoric, and people will vote for you. I'm thinking about it. The Democratic Party hasn't helped a black person in 50 years, yet they still get all of it. Why? Because their rhetoric is nicer than yours. That's the reason.
Well, yeah. I mean, they actually talk to black people with respect instead of calling them slaves on a plantation. But I digress.
Yep.
I've got
Yes.
Yeah, I've got another question from the chat, but before I get to that, I'm just going to remind you to don't forget to head on over to libertynation.com, a proud sponsor of A Fresh Perspective with Jeff Charles, where you can sign up for the daily briefing, you can subscribe to the member zone, you can also check out the latest cutting-edge conservative and libertarian news and analysis with none of the spin and all of the nuance. You won't have to worry about a lot of outrage porn. You can get opinions from the complete spectrum of the right. So check out new and original material on libertynation.com. So this is a very interesting point. They say some libertarians repel mainstream voters if they have views considered extreme. Example would be legalizing heroin, cocaine. What are the libertarian ideologies that would compete against the red and blue?
Yeah, and I'm actually not against the idea of people yelling legalize recreational cocaine. I'm not, because I do want people to think about that. I think there's a message that with some people will land. But I think he's correct. A lot of mainstream voters are turned away from that. That's true. But most mainstream voters simply aren't going to hear that. They just aren't going to hear that. And that's okay. But that's why you have guys like me who come with a policy. And my policy is, let's legalize cannabis first. That's the policy. Let's legalize cannabis first. But when we legalize it, let's not legalize it in a way that supports big business, which is what we're doing in every state. Every single state, when we legalize cannabis, is a disaster. Excuse me. Because it supports big business, which supports the black market. And the worst example I can give you is, I'll give you California and Colorado as an example. California. So much taxes on legalized cannabis that you had a massive black market of farmers in Northern California.
Yep.
So the farmers got mad and said, this is not fair, government. The black market farmers are making money and stuff. So, of course, California, being the savvy government that it was, immediately said, let's lower taxes to make sure everything is fair. No, I'm kidding. That didn't happen.
I was like, wait a minute. No. What California are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. That didn't happen. What happened was California used the police force and confiscated everything, grabbed all of the weed, and then paid, with your taxpayer money, paid a consultant to burn it all. That's what California did, supporting the black market. That's how we're legalizing cannabis now. Colorado. Why did Colorado have a huge homeless problem? Why? Because when Colorado legalized weed, everybody who was thinking about a second chance at life, those who had convictions, those who were in trouble, said, let me rush to Colorado. I get a second chance at life. And Colorado made the licensing so hard, so expensive, so difficult that people sold everything and went there and couldn't get in the industry. And they were broken. This was their last chance. And Colorado, because of their terrible way of legalizing cannabis, broke literally thousands and thousands upon people. That's Colorado. That's California. Now, what did I say? Excuse me, and I'm sorry, my allergies are killing me. I apologize.
No, you're fine.
So, what did I say? I said, legalize cannabis in New York State like onions. I wasn't joking. Take whatever the rules are for onions, scratch off the word onion, put cannabis, done. Law passed. That's it. And people were like, what? Yes, just scratch off onions, put cannabis, done. Vote on that. Right? Do a find replace in your Word document and move on. Literally, that's it. Just do that. It's fine. I don't care. Why? New York State now is legalizing it, and they're creating an Office of Cannabis Management. Cannabis has been in the black market for hundreds of years. Where are all the deaths? No place. There's no deaths. So now that it's legal, now we're going to worry about it killing people? Stop. It's insanely dumb. They do that so that their people can be put on these boards to ensure that these people can decide who gets a license and where. The license will cost about $250,000.
That is always awful. That is always
Correct.
Awful. That does not work out. And then it gives ammo to a lot of people on my side who say, oh, no, we should keep it illegal. And I'm like, no, it's not the fact that they legalized marijuana that's the problem. It's how they handled it afterwards.
Yes.
They used more government to make the whole situation worse. God.
And my answer was legalize it like onions, right? Which means if you like your dealer, you keep your dealer, right? All your dealer does is pay whatever it is, $45, whatever the fee is, for them to become an LLC. They become an LLC and they're not legal. They can call the cops if someone steals their weed, right? They can get a loan from a credit union if it's New York State only. They can get a loan from a credit union to start their business, right? They can get investment into the LLC if they want to. They can have a storefront if they like, right? They can do whatever they think is appropriate. Very easy, very simple, but I'm still not done. How about farmers? Farmers in New York State, and a lot of farmers in New York State. People don't know that, but there are a lot of farmers in New York State, right? Upstate particularly, of course, obviously. But right now, farmers are dying. So now all of a sudden they get a cash crop. If you're like onions, you can just buy and start a cash crop, right? And start, even more importantly, a niche grow, right? And we have that already. We have very niche brews in our brewery industry in New York State. We did the same with beer, and now that's a booming industry in my state. Why can't we have craft grows with farmers? Right, treat them like small businesses. Allow them to have sites right there on their farm if they want to. You can purchase your thing for, I don't know, pain or sleep or recreation or whatever you want. It's onions, right? So you not just that. Every time I cross the state, I would have someone talk to me every trip, and usually it was an older woman, and she would come to me and she would say, "Larry, I hope you win." I said, "Why?" "Because I know you want to legalize weed." I said, "Okay, why?" "Because I have so much pain, and it's the only way I can sleep, and it's illegal. So I can't afford medicine. So I have to have my son and my daughter go buy it. I don't want them going to jail."
That's
and I'd say, yes. And I'd say, I get it. So I got it. If you don't have enough cash, but you want to not be in chronic pain and you want to spend time with your family and friends, grow your medicine in your backyard. I don't care. Why does it matter? You got to have 3 plants or 4 plants. Shut up. Who cares how many plants it is? Stop with this. There's no need to control. It's just a way of punishing. If you want to grow 1 or 3,000, why do I care? If I want to grow 3,000 onions in my backyard, why do you care? Who cares? Grow whatever you want in your backyard. It's your land. If you do this, you will change that's a way that would actually help the small person, the little dealer, the individual, the small farmer to actually grow themselves, and no extra bureaucracy whatsoever. And the tax should be no extra tax. However, I was able to push myself to accept the 3% tax. Why 3%? When my team went down the numbers, we checked a bunch of the numbers, and we found that as a general rule, and this is very a general broad brush, I know it is, that as long as you're 3% or less on taxation, you generally don't encourage the black market. But that's about the number, right? So if it's $1 outside, $1.03 in the store, most people go buy the $1.03 versus the black market.
Right.
Once it's $1.04 or $5, people start going to the black market. So I would begrudgingly have accepted 1, 2, or 3%, but I would have not accepted any more than that. Because once you go to 4 or 5%, I'm encouraging a black market. I don't want to encourage the black market. If you like your dealer, keep your dealer.
Yeah, exactly. Man, we can do a whole conversation just on that. Hopefully sometime we can. So I got a super chat here. Naturalist Capitalist, thank you very much for the super chat. Larry Sharpe, are you going to run for governor of New York again?
I am looking at it now. I'm looking at it now.
Okay.
Excuse me. And as she talked about, in New York State, we have a thing called fusion voting.
Okay.
Excuse me. Sorry about that. That cough is bugging me.
You're good.
The fusion voting means in New York State, which is special for our state, you can actually run on multiple lines and be listed multiple times. So I'm a registered libertarian in my state, but I could also run as, say, a Democrat, a Republican, a conservative, whatever, and I could be listed multiple times on the ballot. And then all of the votes together is how many votes I get. That's how I decide if I win or not. That's how New York State works.
Okay.
So I'm actually considering running in the Republican primary.
Oh.
Now, if I win the Republican primary, I would have the Republican line also plus Libertarian. I have 2 lines. They'd be listed twice. Okay. If I lose the Republican primary, I'm just listed as Libertarian. But to your point earlier, I have moved the needle of the Republican Party. Right? If I do poorly, then I haven't. But if I do well or win, I've moved the Republican Party towards liberty. Right? If I do one of those 2 things, either win or do well. If I get my butt kicked, I haven't. Right? But in this state, I'm not going to get my butt kicked. I am more popular in my state than any Republican running. I have more name recognition. I still get recognized in the street still. I was remember, I cross the state every year. I go to all 62 counties every year since 2017. So I'm off next weekend again, doing it again. Right? So I do it all the time. So literally a state trooper will notice me. Oh, hey, you're Larry Sharpe. That'll happen all the time. So yes, so I'm more popular. My favorite though was when some guys are driving by their car and one yells out the window, "Regulate like onions." That I love. That's my favorite one.
That's awesome. Good. I'll be looking forward to that. I got another important question here. Who likes hot sauce and who knows that Tabasco is just pepper sauce? Now, Chad thinks that Tabasco is not hot sauce. He's out of his mind. There's something wrong with him. I know you met him at the Solutionary Summit, so you know he's nuts. Larry, please tell this man that Tabasco sauce is hot sauce.
Hot sauce is a generic term that also covers everything. So yes, it is indeed hot sauce. It may not be the hot sauce that you like. I understand that. There are many types of hot sauces. I completely agree. But it doesn't mean that Tabasco is not hot sauce. I'm actually not a Tabasco fan, to tell you the truth. I like other types of hot sauce. I like other types of things. However, my favorite actually is anything from ghost peppers. I love ghost peppers. That's my thing.
I got a ghost pepper with blueberry a while ago. Very good, very good. But yeah,
so yes. But it is absolutely hot sauce. Yes,
definitely. I'm glad you set him straight on that. And he's from Louisiana too. He should know better. Now here's an actual serious question.
Yeah.
How do libertarians address healthcare? I don't hear enough conservatives or libertarians talk about healthcare.
Absolutely, and they don't. And he's right. But you have to have a way of shifting healthcare. What you usually get from here's the way most libertarians / conservatives, but heavily libertarians will answer any question. What about this thing? Let me give you a history lesson and then rhetoric. Done. That's how it goes. I'm not going to say that. What I'm going to tell you is we have to get the healthcare system to move to where you are the customer. Right now, the customer is the insurance company or the government. If you go, and what's happening is it's creating a two-tiered system, right? I live in New York City. I see it. If you're wealthy or well off, you go to the best doctors who don't take insurance anymore. They stopped. They don't take insurance. So you swipe your credit card or you give them a check and you go get seen. Or you go to the doctors who aren't as good, who rush you through. Now, here's the experience I'm sure you're going to get in most cities, not every city, but I'm telling you, my city and most cities will agree with this. If you have insurance, your appointment's at 2:00, you get seen at 3:15, you get seen for 5 or 10 minutes, maybe, and it always ends with one of three things. It ends with a prescription, a test, or a procedure.
Right.
Why? Because that's how to get paid. The system encourages the doctor for you to be sick and to give you stuff. So you get stuff every single time, a procedure, a test, or prescription. So the doctor gets paid. Makes total sense. Doctor's doing what's in his best interest. I got it. But now you go to one that doesn't take any insurance. You come in at 2:00, swipe your credit card. You're seen latest 2:05. The doctor talks to you. How are you eating? How are you sleeping? What's your stress level like? What's going on in life? He talks to you for 10, 20, 15 minutes maybe. And then gives you real advice, gives you some options, and you pick one option. Why? He already got paid. You're the customer. He already got paid. You're the customer. You're coming into him not because he's in network and he's the only doctor in your network who does it, so you're stuck. You're coming to him because you chose him. So he knows that, so he has to act accordingly. So everything changes. The incentives are changed. Okay, so now we know this. How do we make that work? Here's how. We start by encouraging companies like Forward. Do you know what the company Forward is? Forward is it's a healthcare company that is basically a monthly subscription. You pay $150 per month and you get to go to your doctor whenever you want to. It's a monthly subscription. For those of you who know the IT world, in the past, there used to be a whole lot of break-fix models. You would pay whenever your computer is broken. People would come in and you charge by the hour and they fix your computer. Now it's very rare nowadays. Most people go to a subscription model. You pay X dollars per computer per month and they fix it when it's broken. What does that mean? It gives them an incentive to keep your computer system up so they spend less time with you. Forward has a similar model. They want you to be healthy. Because if you're showing, it's like a gym model, right? A gym membership. If you don't go to the gym, they win, right? Pay you $50 a month and don't go to the gym. They're loving you. Doctor model, same thing. Their goal is for you to be in shape, right? So encourage that. And how do we do that? You go right to anyone who's on public assistance, like Medicaid, Medicare, something like that, right? And the actuaries already know. Let's say, for example, you have a friend who's on Medicaid, and they know that because of that person's age, height, weight, whatever, they're probably going to spend about $4,000 a month on healthcare. And they know this because they're actuaries. They've done the numbers.
Right.
That person instead gets a debit card with $4,000 on it that can be spent at any healthcare facility. Now, what does that do? They can go to any facility they want. They can pick a doctor that they want to go to. Now, what will happen when that happens? Most people will do nothing. They'll just go to regular doctors. They won't change. But some will. Some will go, you know what? Let me try this cool doctor I heard about. And they'll pay maybe to $150 per month, or they'll swipe the credit card, whatever, and they'll go. If they like it, life is good. Now, what happens? The private market says, wait a minute, I can get this government money without all the paperwork and fighting insurance companies and admin? Yeah, they'll lower the prices to draw people in. That will happen. They'll draw them in. So more people start going there. So now I got my $4,000. and I'm swiping it. If I don't spend it, I get to keep it on my card.
Right.
So I'm basically creating a healthcare savings account.
Yeah.
Is what I'm creating by default. And now I'm gonna start thinking about how do I handle my healthcare. But Larry, what if I run on my $4,000? You're still a Medicaid. You're still a Medicare. So if you have a catastrophic injury, you still get that. It doesn't go away. It just is a separate way of paying your bills, allowing you to become the customer.
Yeah.
If my idea is correct, more people will want the best doctors. More doctors will take that. Less doctors will take insurance. The system will begin to change to where people now are doing this instead, and that will work. How do I know it will work? Because there is another healthcare system right next to our healthcare system, and that is the non-essential healthcare systems. The things like LASIK eye surgery, body enhancements, cosmetic dentistry, things like that, right? Mm-hmm. When you have things like that, in every case, pricing has come down, accessibility has been more.
Yeah.
In every case, there's zero example of that failing. That happens every single time. When I was a kid, I'm old enough to remember, LASIK eye surgery was per eye because it was too expensive.
I was just about to say that. And it was like billions of dollars.
Now everybody gets it.
Yeah.
Right? And there's no government regulation in that. What a surprise that when the government's regulating and the insurance company gets in between, all the prices go up. But when the market decides, the pricing goes down and the service gets better and accessibility gets better. That's the piece. That will begin to change the mindset. But I got to go one step further. Now we're at people who are very poor. Okay, I got it. No worries. Here's how we fix that. We support those people who are on this model. The companies, I mean, like the Forwards of the world or the hospitals. There's some hospitals doing this now too. Okay. And we say, hey, if you take 10% of your population or whatever the number is, I made the number up for sake of argument, the people that we consider poor, and the government can decide whatever that is. Maybe they're, they get school lunch or something, right? Whatever the way the government wants to decide poor is, below the poverty line, whatever. If you take these people for free, if you take X% for free, there'll be no payroll tax for you. Okay. Now, if you're a small startup, probably not good for you. You probably won't do it. You're a larger hospital? Yeah, you will. That's a lot of money. Yeah. You're like, fine, we'll do it. So now the poorest of us are getting the exact same quality healthcare as the wealthy. That's what I want. All of my policies always support the entrepreneur class over the corporate class, the working poor and middle class over the very wealthy and very poor. Always. Because that's where freedom is.
Yeah.
That's where a strong economy is. That's where a strong everything is. Right? Is right there. Working poor who are trying to get better, middle class trying to get better, entrepreneur class. You deal with those three. If that's stronger, we have a better society.
Good. Yeah, that sounds very interesting. I'm gonna have to look more into that. I hadn't heard of Forward, so I'll take a look. Now, there's one thing that I really did want to talk to you about, and we were kind of talking about it earlier with the Black community. And you already know that the Republicans' Black outreach has been abysmal. Yep. I am seeing some small signs of improvement with some people pushing more for it, but not where I would like it to be yet. What about the Libertarian Party? I mean, do they have any kind of Black outreach? Because from what I'm saying, it seems like, they're pretty much, not in terms of policy, but in terms of outreach and messaging, seems like they're not very distinguishable from Republicans.
Why do you guys support Mars so much?
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. Guilty as charged, Your Honor. I lay myself on the mercy of the court. You are correct. You are correct. And the problem that I have is I'm not as connected, right? I moved out of the Black community when I was a kid. So people often think that my speech pattern is odd. And they're right, because I'm like old man 70s ghetto, right? We still called it a ghetto back then. We didn't call it the hood, right? When I was a kid, it was called the ghetto. We didn't call it the hood. So even that's like, I still want to call it the ghetto because that's what it was when I was a kid. So that's what I grew up in. Right? I grew up in the South Bronx. So, but I've left that piece, and that's an issue that I sometimes deal with. I feel connected to the hood, but often the hood doesn't feel connected to me. If that makes any sense. But I still go and I walk around. I still feel totally comfortable. Like I feel fine there, but they don't always connect to me. So I struggle myself also. I also struggle. So I'm happy when I have an opportunity to get back to the hood. I think you're muted.
Okay, yeah, my mic was doing some weird stuff. So when it comes to like the Libertarian Party or the Libertarian movement overall, I mean, what's the disconnect? I mean, because if you're feeling that they're not comfortable with you, I mean, but why aren't there others who they may feel comfortable with? Like, I don't know. Is it because you don't have enough mosh to raise, or what's going on?
Yes, we don't have enough of him. That's number one. Of course, that is an issue. We're working on more of them as we can. We're trying to get more people in. It's a hard push for many reasons. One, when you have an activist class that is often just end government, and you go into an environment, and you don't know what I mean when I go here, in many poorer communities, you find the government is a double-edged sword. The government is putting most people in prison and hiring most of the people.
Right.
So how do you deal with that environment when the government is both crushing you and helping you? Wow, that's hard, right? So it becomes challenging for the Libertarian to come and go, get rid of government. And then the community goes, well, then what? Well, then the magic of the market. And we're like, we don't believe in the magic of the market because the white man runs the market. That's how they think, right? I get it. Yep. You're Hispanic. You're in a Hispanic community. You think the magic of the market? Or you can think of it as all your people getting deported. That's the magic of the market. If you're Hispanic, right? That's what you think. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a good, we don't do a good job of it. We have to get better. That's all I can tell you. We have to get better. I think we are. And one of the things I bring up constantly is licensing, right? Building the entrepreneur class within the Black community. The idea of an ownership mindset. I bring this up constantly. I brought up the Solutionary Summit, right? We need more people of color, to start thinking not about, can I make my monthly note, but am I building some equity in something?
Right.
Do I own something, right? Or am I moving towards owning something? And too many of us don't do that. We're just worried about, I can make my bills this month, I'm good. And we have to change that mindset. And that's a mindset change that will take literally decades. I think we have to. But if you look at how so many people of color have gotten out of the bad situation, most of the time, it was entrepreneurship.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Probably like 80-90% of the time, really. I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
Most of the time, entrepreneurship. And we just don't do that very much. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, and if you're going to a neighborhood and you're saying, yeah, we want to end the government, they're not, nobody's going to be amenable to that unless you have something better, like you just said. So if you go in saying, let's talk about entrepreneurship, let's talk about getting these licensing requirements out of the way. Let's talk about other things that government is doing to prevent you from starting that business.
Yes.
When there's more of that entrepreneurship fostered, then they might be more amenable to saying, okay, maybe we don't need the government. So it sounds like that they're doing it about as backwards as the Republicans are, and that's depressing.
well, the issue is I want to change licensing to instead credentialing. Right now in New York State, if you want to braid hair, you need a license. It will cost you about $20,000 total to get that license to braid hair. Yes,
$20,000.
Correct, because you have to go to school.
Was that ridiculous?
Well, because you got to go to school for it. And the college courses you got to take will cost about that, plus the fees and such. A couple of years and $20,000 to braid hair. Why? Where are all the deaths from hair braiders? There's none. It's just a way of hammering.
Well, I mean, you do have people using Gorilla Glue on their hair, though. So,
Yes, but you know what you do instead then? Again, it's credentialing, which means you decide if you have a government credential or not. But you can still work. When there's a license, you can't work. Right. As a credential, you can work, you're just not credentialed. And now the community decides, do I trust her or not? If I trust her, okay, I'll work with her even though she's not credentialed. I don't, I'm going to credential the hair braider. And then the community decides.
Okay.
And now we have more people trying things, and you have people moving up, right? They can start to actually, as an uncredentialed, hair braider, and then maybe they move up to a credentialed one if they care, right? If the credential matters in their community, they can work their way up and then become credentialed if they want to. It's up to them. They can choose if it makes sense for their business model, whatever they want. So that's a big deal that I bring up often, and people don't get that, right? How many times when I was a kid, again in the 70s, give my age away. When I was a kid in the Bronx in the 70s. Cabs didn't come to our neighborhood, right? And there was no Uber. So we had gypsy cabs, right? That's an illegal cab. We had those. And that's how we survived. Gypsy cabs, right? One guy would paint one of his doors different color, and we'd know, oh, that's the red door. That's the guy. We can get in his cab. And he would take us.
Oh, I've never even heard of that.
Yes. They don't have them anymore, right? This is back in the 70s, right? You used to have gypsy cabs. They don't have them anymore. But yes.
That is very interesting. All right, well, we're running out of time, but I really appreciate you joining me. This has been awesome. I feel like there's so much more we could have talked about. So hopefully we can do this again. But before we sign off, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Heading over to the Sharpe Way. You can see it right here. Yes, promoting it. The Sharpe Way. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, all the Insta web stuff, all of them. Or, of course, just go to Larry Sharpe. Google Larry Sharpe everywhere. Please follow me on social media. It does matter. The reason why I say it matters is I get shadow banned constantly. So if you like and comment and share my stuff, you help me get past the shadow ban. So even if you don't like me that much, but you think I'm important because you think I have a good voice, you don't like me, I don't care. Please like, comment, share my stuff. Turn off the subscription notifications, whatever. But subscribe anyway. Right? Help me out. The bigger I get, the more people hear my stuff. So please like all the things.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining in, and I will see you next time.